that was one of the points where we hit literally rock bottom. We were completely lost in a way. Felt so disconnected from the outside world, because what do you hold on to if you don't know what is safe to grab onto, right? Hey all and every many, thanks for switching in to Housemates for Life, a podcast powered by Plurals for Plurals and everybody else who wants to hear more about the insanely awesome world of plurality. Here we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly and the beautiful sides of sharing a body and mind. In the last 2 episodes we talked about our discovery journey, how we became aware that we're a system. And now you might wonder, okay, I just realized I am a system, or we are a plural system, so what now? And the initial time after syscovery can be very overwhelming, and so today we will talk a bit about that kind of roller coaster ride. We put together some questions that we personally have been dealing with a lot, and we also hear a lot about in the plural community, and, well, not sure if we are going to answer them properly, but maybe you will find some solace in this episode if you're struggling with your newly discovered system, or maybe you're just generally curious or want to look back at the time when you were a freshly discovered system. We are the voices of just a rather very insane system, aka Jarvis, and I'm your host Matt, and I'm here today with my headmate Will. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, Housemates for Life, please tell a friend or more and leave a like, subscribe, rate, comment, and everything else you do to show your support and appreciation. Many thanks. And now, without further ado, let's get on with our show. So before we dive a bit deeper into the chaotic roller coaster ride of discovery, we want to talk about the first couple days or weeks right after we learned about plurality, what it means to be a system, and how we figured out that we are a plural system. Because in the beginning, it was all euphoria, okay? It was enlightening. It was basically a big revelation of our life, our identity, our mind, basically all the way we perceive and process the world around us and inside us. So we were very, very excited in the beginning. We felt like a big, huge door opened up suddenly. There was just so much inside us that we had no words for, no way of describing it, talking about it, understanding it ourselves, because, yeah, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to talk about things or even think about things if you don't have words for them. And words can be limiting, but in this case, it was actually, liberating. And so we basically sucked up all the information we could get on plurality. We actually took a week off from work because we just could not think straight. We could not think about anything else but plurality, learning about systems, understanding ourselves, putting all the pieces in place that have been confusing us in the past. And we also pretty quickly came out to our closest friends, and we were so excited. We literally made a presentation, like with few slides, presentation of plurality and our system and how we discovered it, like basically the stuff we talked about in the previous episodes. Put all that in a presentation for our friends. 3 hours long or something. We talked all night about this because we were so happy and we wanted everybody to know about this. But yeah, that's easier said than done. And after this initial euphoria, we started to spiral into a deep hole of chaos. And if your plural system, if you discover that your system all of a sudden, you probably have been through a ride as well, or you are currently on a ride. Maybe you just discovered your system just a week ago and you're now like, what the fuck's going on? And so yeah, we put together a few questions. We brainstormed a bit about how our first months of system mode were like. We tried to formulate a few questions that had been on our mind a lot and that we come across pretty frequently in the plural community. And we thought it might be fun to do it like this. Matt, I will read out the questions and then my headmate Will is going to answer them. We thought it might be funny, maybe. I don't know. We will see how this turns out. So we will talk a bit about, or my headmate will talk about how it felt for us back then, how we experienced that time, and also how we think about it these days, today. So we should say we know that we are systems since like a bit more than a year and a half. So our discovery was at the end of 2021. Don't mess up the time, the years. And now at the time of recording, it's a bit more than 1.5 years ago since we know that we're a system. So we will talk a bit about the first couple months, almost year of system mode and how we think about it now. And maybe in 10 years we will make a episode, if we're still doing this podcast, I don't know. But we will make an episode or something, how we think about it in 10 years or 5 years. I don't know. We will see. So yeah, I will go to read out the first question. So if you are a newly discovered system, the first thing you probably wonder about yourselves is like, have I gone crazy? Am I mad? Yeah, and I still wonder this sometimes, still to this day. This is Will here, by the way. Recording this after Matt has been recording all the questions, so we're not switching back and forth like that. We edited this together. Just for the record. So yeah, have I gone crazy? I don't know. It's like after we were so happy of finding out that we are system, at some point it just dawns on you. It's like, okay, what the fuck? Like, it's just, it's so hard to describe, but I mean, if you're not plural, if you're not intuitively understand what it means to be a system, it all sounds probably very crazy to you. And it is in a way, like, not to shame anyone or something or be offensive, but kind of in a reclaiming way, we like to say that we are crazy, we are mad, we are maniacs, because it is insane to think about it, to make yourself aware that you share a body with someone else, with some other self-aware entity who has their own mind, their own thoughts, patterns, and yeah, I think it feels so crazy because it's deemed not normal, right? Because you learn as a child, you have one body, you have one ID card, you have one name. I mean, sometimes you have a second name or a third name, but you have this one identity everybody refers to when talking about you. It's ingrained in the majority of Western culture. So that's what you learn, and suddenly you have to rethink everything. I mean, we have always been plural and we have always perceived ourselves in that way, but once you open up yourself to that idea that, yeah, this is actually a thing, it just changes everything. I don't know how to describe it. And even today, sometimes it's like, most of the days these days, it has become more or less normal to us to think of ourselves this way. But every now and then we catch ourselves, or at least I catch myself, to be like, man, this is crazy. I'm just mad. I'm not mad. I'm mad. Yeah, I'm not sure what to say more. It's like the whole first couple of months was a hell of a ride. It still is sometimes, but in the beginning it's even more crazy, I guess. So yeah, if you listen to this and if you just recently discovered that your system, I guess it gets better. I mean, I don't want to say better. Maybe my headmates have a different opinion, but it becomes different. You get more used to it. And yeah, if this all freaks you out, it definitely freaked me out a couple of times. And this is also the thing about when you're plural, your opinions on this might change rapidly from day to day or hour to hour or even minute to minute. But if at least one of you expresses discomfort, fear, confusion, whatever, seek help from a therapist, friends, seek help in the plural community, because it is distressing. It can be very distressing. Even if it's not distressing for all of you, it's totally normal, totally understandable that at least one of you will feel distressed about all of this. And there's no shame in that. Even if you feel like you're not disordered, if you don't need help for things like, I don't know, PTSD or something, just the fact that you are plural, you probably perceive the world completely differently than the majority of society. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable with that. I still feel uncomfortable with that a lot of times, and especially in the beginning. So yeah, it's totally normal to feel crazy. Totally normal to have that feeling you lost your mind or you lost control or things are spiraling in a way you never anticipated. But yeah, you're not alone with that. Even though it often feels like that, you're alone with the struggle. You can get help, even if it's only your system members. Some of them might have a better grasp on what's going on. Trust them, follow their lead. Let yourself be taken care of course. You deserve it. Even though it might not feel like that, you deserve it. The next question is probably the most common one for new systems, and even not so new systems. It's kind of like, it's not a rule, but many systems ask themselves this. So if you're asking yourself this question, you probably are plural. Don't worry. And the question is, am I just making this all up? Am I just faking to be a system? This can't be real. I'm just pretending. I just want attention. All these kind of thoughts. Yeah, the doubt. I think almost every pro system is familiar with doubting themselves, doubting their identity, doubting their mind, doubting their perception, their memory. Doubts. It's full of doubts. And I remember how I've been just looking up other things, other diagnoses that could fit our experience. Like maybe it's just ADHD, you know. I'm just my mind is just very busy and fluctuating between things all the time, and the symptoms of ADHD sound fitting. Probably it's just that. Probably I'm just exaggerating or overreacting and thinking like, oh yeah, I'm plural. And in the end, maybe it's just that, an overactive brain or something like that. Or similarly, BPD, borderline personality disorder, always made sense to me or us. And probably there's a lot of overlap between all these diagnoses. But it's so tempting. It's so tempting to, quote unquote, explain away your plural experiences. And I met a lot of systems who've done it. if you are doubting yourselves, and if you're looking for alternative explanations for your plural perception and experience, you are not the only ones. Definitely. It's kind of an entrance ritual, kind of, to accepting your plurality. You first need to go through all this doubt shit, and it will come back. It will come back and go. What helped us to accept plurality as the one explanation is that it is the simplest. Not the easiest, but it's the simplest. Plurality is such a broad experience, subjective experience, and it encompasses a lot of things. So at some point it was just the easiest to say, yep, we are a plural system, and that's it. Put a period behind that, and not having to think of it anymore, you know? And so long it helps you, it's fine. As long as it helps you all to define yourselves as being a plural system, it's absolutely valid. And if it doesn't apply to you anymore after a couple months or years, or I don't know, if you at some point say, nah, probably I wasn't plural after all, maybe we're not plural anymore, and that's totally fine too. It doesn't have to be a lifelong experience. I mean, it can be or often is, but it doesn't have to be, and it's totally okay. And I guess the doubts and the fear also comes from the fact, the fear of appropriating a clinical diagnosis, appropriating a diagnosis that that is associated with a lot of problems and daily struggles. So if you think about the very extreme end of DID, for example, with amnesia, amnesic barriers between identities, and then you hear stories that only really severe traumatic experiences can cause this clinical diagnosis, blah blah. When you hear that, then of course you are afraid to minimize other people's struggles, because you don't want to claim being part of that or being faced with the same fate like others. At least that's how we felt often. Is that so? Especially because we don't live with amnesia and we have no idea what it's like and how problematic that can be, or how challenging that can be for your daily life. It feels like taking up space, right? It feels like taking up the space of other people who might deserve more help or more acknowledgement or something like that. But I say don't let yourself be discouraged by that. Even though, I mean, plurality in systemhood is so broad and diverse that no system is like another. No system's experience is like another system's experience, and I think we all can just learn from each other. So it doesn't matter what your background is. We can still form a community and support each other. I mean, we are so few anyway, at least when you take in body count. we're a minority in society, so yeah, the more the merrier, I would say, personally. And I guess that's a collective opinion of us all. Not actually sure how I personally think about all this. Haven't really put much thought into it. And one thing that made me personally doubt this whole plural thing a lot is fear of escapism. I was a lot afraid that I'm just making up my headmates because I'm lonely. I'm just making them up like imaginary friends, like, and it had this kind of stigmatized taste or flavor of being childish. Like we had a very imaginative mind always. Also as a child, we had a lot of big imagination as a child and also as adults, but especially as a child. So it feels like kind of, oh my gosh, I'm just regressing into my childhood, and engaging with my hatmates could be bad for me. Like that's what we thought often before knowing about plurality, being like, okay, we have these different parts of versions of ourselves and we gave them names and it's all cool and fun, but shouldn't do that too much, because it's just fantasy, it's just in my head, right? But yeah, in hindsight, it has been more healing than damaging. So yeah, I guess don't be afraid of your own mind. If that's what you perceive, then that's your reality. End of story. The next question we have been struggling a lot with is, who the fuck is me? Who am I? If we are multiple people, but what is this human? Who is this human? What the fuck is going on, basically? Yeah, that question goes hand in hand with the am I actually crazy? And this comes down to, for the first time, actually consciously experiencing something like blurriness and identity confusion and dissociation. We talked about identity confusion in one of the first episodes, so if you haven't checked that out. But when you just discovered plurality and systemhood, and just started to think of yourselves as a group of people, it's probably also the first time that you actually actively pay attention to your sense of identity, sense of selves. And if you haven't done that before, if you have been on this blurry autopilot previously, and then you start to pay attention who's actually driving this bus, and then you're faced with blurriness, faced with identity confusion and dissociation, it's confusing. It's hella confusing. It's difficult. It's hard to make sense of your own reality all of a sudden. Like before, you try to navigate the world, this singular world, somehow pressing your experience into this singular normative perception, and then that all is falling apart, and yeah, there's a lot to unpack, and it is confusing. If you are confused about your identity, that's perfectly normal. It is scary, but it's also, at the same time, it's not scary. It's not going to harm you. It's usually blurriness and confusion is a result of distress. So take your time, calm down, chill out. Be patient with yourselves, because I promise you're going to get used to it. It's not going to be any more pleasant, but it will be less distressing in the future. At least for us, it starts to be less and less distressing. Because in the beginning, it was like the first time I felt actively confused about my identity, I was freaking out. I was panicking. I mean we. But because we didn't know what's going on, we weren't used to that. We felt like losing our mind, losing our identity. And nowadays it's like, oh yeah, this blurriness is happening again. Man, this sucks, but what can I do? Tomorrow is another day. So we got used to the fact that it goes away. It goes away, especially if you stay calm about it. Just keep going with whatever you're doing. It goes away, or you learn some techniques that work for you to ground yourself, to get a hold onto your identity. It helps to get to know your system members, engaging with each other, learning to communicate with each other. We implemented system meetings for that. So we would sit down every month, and pick a topic and discuss it together, and we would learn so much about each other, about how we individually see the world, perceive the world. And then when you're confused about your identity, it's easier to pick up individual feelings and be like, oh wait, this thought right now, that sounded a bit like Matt. Maybe Matt is close to the front, something like that. Also, what really helped us back then was talking as individuals to an outside person. We had this lucky opportunity to be interviewed back then. It was a study on gender euphoria, and the interviewer was so kind and accepting. And we all, not all of us, but the three of us, Matt, Yuri, and I, we got to be interviewed and asked about our individual opinions on the topic of gender, because we all three of us have very different experiences with that. We'll cover this in a different episode. But it really helped us to be able to formulate your own opinions, express them to another individual on the outside of your system, and get that validation and reflection back to you that, yes, we are separate people. That really felt liberating. That felt like, for the first time, actually somehow existing in this world, not just in our mind, but in this outside world. It's a bit like recording this podcast feels like I can put my own individual voice manifested somehow in the physical world for others to witness. It's not always perfect. I still feel very influenced at times when I'm recording this, but it just feels liberating to just at least try. So yeah, express yourselves in what form ever, whatever feels comfortable and safe for you all. Expressing yourselves, manifesting your system in the outside helps. It helps a lot with the confusion. So after grounding ourselves a bit more in our systemhood and identity, the next questions we had on our mind were all related to social interactions and connections. And first off, the question is, how should we introduce ourselves to other people? Like, what names should we use? What pronouns should we use? Should we use multiple names, one name? Like how do you do that? How do you say hello as a system to other people who don't know systemhood? Yeah, hello. This is Will. That's what I would like to say when I'm at front, but it would confuse the hell out of people outside, I guess, who don't know us, we haven't told about our system. And even if we tell people about our system, it feels so awkward to use our individual names, at least for us. Because also often I'm just not sure if it's me or if it's Matt or if it's a confused, blurry blend of Matt with sprinkles of Yuri or other admates that we are not even aware of. I don't know. So it always feels wrong to use a name. It just always feels wrong. It feels wrong to use my name collectively for all of us, because Matt is not Will, and I'm not Yuri, and it just feels wrong all the time. And after discovering our system and after actually thinking about our name, it was mainly the name that made us discovering our system, because Yuri was using our name or her name for us, and I was like, no, it's not my name. What the fuck? It feels so uncomfortable. Yeah, and then finding a collective name that we can all agree on was kind of hard. I mean, we had a system name right away, Jarvis, because I don't know, we're Marvel fans, so that was right on our mind immediately. It was as if this name existed before we knew it. But we wouldn't call ourselves that in public. especially when we're not out as a system. We don't want to out ourselves through our name. So it took us a couple of months to find a name that felt fitting. And even now, it still feels wrong. It still feels like it's not my name, it's not me, but it is a compromise to use that name. I won't tell you the name for privacy reasons, but we have this collective name that we use as it's our singular persona, so to speak. It's like we all pretend to be that one person, and we all actors. We all have our own acting style to pretend to be that one single person. But yeah, it feels wrong, at least to me. I feel great dysphoria about my name and identity and all that, and how people perceive me. My headmates might feel a bit different about it. I know Matt likes to act, likes to be that silly person acting on a stage. I don't know, he's weird. Yeah. So yeah, it's just difficult, and it never crossed our mind before how important a name can be, and how important was also gender expression. Like, what kind of gender should we express to the outside? I mean, I'm clearly male. Matt is clearly a dude, but sometimes not sure about that. And we have totally different expressions. We have other people in our system, other gender and preferred expressions, but we have to settle for something. Which, yeah, it's all difficult and confusing. And if you are struggling with that, it's perfectly fine and understandable. It doesn't make it less distressing, but, or maybe it does help. I don't know. Let us know in the comments. The next question is also a very difficult one, and I think this doesn't only apply to new systems. This is something on every system's mind all the time, I guess. And it is to come out or not to come out. Do I out myself as a system? Do we tell other people who we are, what we are? Should we better stay quiet for the sake of safety? It's an ongoing question, and it's probably not easy to answer for just once. You will have to go through that question many, many, many times. Yeah, so in the beginning we were all like, we have to come out, we can't stay quiet about this. This is our identity, this is about our authenticity, self-expression. Like, to me, especially, as I said before, I feel very sensitive about my identity and how people perceive myself, so I want people to know who I am. But yeah, the more and more you try to explain this whole plural thing to other people, the more and more you have to realize how different the plural experience is versus the singular experience. Like, in the very beginning, really, we thought, oh yeah, this plural thing, it makes total sense for us, and it must make sense to everyone, right? And it's absolutely not the case. The more we talk to singular people, or people who perceive themselves as singular, the more we had to realize how, quote-unquote, weird plurality actually is. Like, for us, it's so normal, natural. It's like we're speaking our native language, but we grew up in a completely foreign culture all our lives, and we didn't know. And suddenly realizing, oh, these other people, they all speak a different language, and they don't understand what I'm saying, and it's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating and exhausting. So after a while, we kind of gave up. Not really gave up. We still are relatively open about our plurality. When we meet new people, we usually tell it very early on, kind of as a filter of seeing how does the other person react to our come out. And if they react in a certain way, we're like, yeah, okay, red flag. I don't want to have anything to do with you if you don't really want to engage with us. So it can be a good filter to come out early on, but certainly not in all places. So in places where we are stuck with people, for example, at the workplace, we haven't come out yet. We have come out at our previous work for reasons, because we just discovered our system and we were going through hell and we had to get some suspension. So we felt like coming out is a good choice. But now at our current workplace, we are not out because at the moment we don't see any benefit from being out. And it is just a too high risk to come out and maybe weird the shit out of our colleagues. I don't know. Probably it's not going to be like that, but it's not worth it. Let's put it like that. It's not worth it for us. Maybe it's worth for you because maybe you have some plurality causes some impairments for you. For example, if you struggle with memory or something like that, and it might be helpful to explain to people what's going on so you can get the accommodations you need. You might not even have to come out as a plural system, but talk about your struggles in a more abstract way. I don't know what is more abstract than plurality. I don't know. But yeah, we are camp openness. That's why we do this podcast, I guess. We just feel like being closed up about who we are is just going to make us miserable in the long run. So it's always a wager, but yeah, in the end, it feels like the benefits from being out and creating meaningful real relationships with outside people is much more worth than living hidden behind closed doors. I mean, we have done that for most part of our life, and now we're done with that, I guess. Next question is also a big one for us, and certainly not yet completely answered. Question is, who can we actually trust? Oof, yeah. Trust. That goes hand in hand with coming out, I guess. But yeah, I mean, nowadays we have a bit better feeling for what is a red flag, but in the beginning we didn't know. So in the beginning we told a lot of people we maybe shouldn't have told about this, and we had to face plural phobia, and you know what I mean? People pathologizing plurality. We have been facing that, and it's not fun at all. This is one of the most ugliest sides of being plural, I guess. And yeah, it's just the worst that if you trust someone with something so intimate, like you're literally stripping off everything, like not just your clothes but also your skin, and like talking about the essence of who you are. and then just being categorized as being broken, being disordered, being flawed, or being delusional, being generally distrusted. Like you put a lot of trust in other people and they start to distrust you just because of who you are. It's incredibly disheartening. And if you have to go through that, I'm sorry. Don't know what to say. It sucks. It sucks really bad. And if you're facing that for the first time, and you have a very fragile support system or no support system at all, because you suddenly don't know, who can I trust with this? Who can I talk to with this? Who will not see me as something completely strange or weird or crazy person, you know? It's like, yeah, well, what do you do? Like, I felt like that was one of the points where we hit literally rock bottom. We were completely lost in a way, like felt so disconnected from the outside world, because what do you hold on to if you don't know what is safe to grab onto, right? And it was also, we weren't at therapy yet at that point because we had to wait a long time on the waiting list, and then you hear all these stories about other plurals who have been through things like fake claiming even in plural communities, system communities, cis-medish bullshit going around, like people claiming that you can only be a system in a very certain way, or only if you fulfill very certain diagnostic criteria and stuff. If you can't rely on support even in your own community, it's frightening, and you don't know, and you don't know if even professional help can help you, because DID or plurality as a whole especially is so under researched, and you just never know how people react. And even if they react nicely and accepting in the beginning, they can always get fed with some misinformation and suddenly turn against you, and it's you feel powerless. You feel so powerless. And yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know if I have any helpful words for you. The only thing I can say is that the positive thing we draw from that is we, at a certain point when we had literally nobody to trust outside our system, the only chance we had was trusting everything inside our system, okay? Like, if the world outside is not cooperative, we inside need to be cooperative. We need to stick together. We need to, hold on to ourselves. We need to trust each other. We need to find a common ground, to be grounded in some way, right? And I think, I guess I'm actually very proud of our system in that regard. I think we have done a good job. We are doing a good job at that. And yeah, if you're at the point of lacking support, turn to your system, turn to headmates that you trust, and solidify that relationship. It's incredibly valuable, I think, at least to me. Another question that certainly doesn't come up only at the beginning of systemhood, but follows systems probably all their life is, who is ever gonna understand us? Who is ever gonna understand or see what's going on in our brain, in our mind, and in our whole life, basically? Yeah, this basically connects to what we talked about previously, the trust. Who can we trust? Who's gonna understand us? It causes a lot of feelings of loneliness, disconnect, social isolation. It was really, really strong in the beginning. At times I felt, at least I personally felt, extremely hopeless, causing depressive thoughts and everything, because I thought, I will be forever alone with my system. And I still sometimes feel that way. It gets to me that nobody's ever going to see me or us as we see ourselves. Nobody will ever really meet us in that sense. It's really difficult to connect with outside people, even with plural. Sometimes they may understand the struggle, but still we struggle to see past the blurriness. Or, I mean, I guess the trick is to accept the blurriness to be the part of your identity, but it's difficult. It's difficult, yeah. It's not easy, I swear. But yeah, finding community helps so much. And here shout out to the Plural Association. It's a non-profit organization founded by system named Stronghold, and we joined TPA a couple months after our syscovery, and it's a really nice, wholesome community. They're accepting of any form of plurality, so if you're afraid of syscore, sysmed accusations, all that shit. You won't find that there. It's a really welcoming, accepting place. And yeah, that was the place where we started to connect with other systems, other plurals, talking to other plurals, other people who speak your native language, other people who try to navigate the singular foreign culture. It helps. It helps a lot to feel. It helps to feel normal and somehow connected with the outside world in a way. Next, we have a few more questions that are still on our mind, still bothering us or troubling us. Questions we don't really have proper answers for yet, that still follow us around. Even though we have been aware of our system since more than a year. And one question is, am I sick? Are we sick? Are we disordered? Do we need help? Can we get better? Do we have to get better? What's going on? Basically, still, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, this one is so difficult to answer, especially when you are a system. When some of you in your system feel healthy as ever and others feel sick or mentally ill or whatever, and you just switch between mindsets, between emotional states and stuff all the time. It's like, what does it even mean to be healthy? What does it even mean to feel good? Like, one of the questions I really hate to get is, how are you doing? Well, I don't fucking know. Like, my headmate is doing fine, is super happy, euphoric and energetic, and I'm like here hanging like a lump of, I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell how is your overall well-being when you are everything, everything, everywhere, all at once. And it's so difficult to measure health. It's so difficult to measure your well-being, your collective well-being. We don't try even anymore. Although sometimes it's. I long for clear answers. I long for clarity. I long for yes or no, basically. But I don't get that. Not in this life. And I mean, obviously, if one of you or one of us is struggling, then all of us got a problem. That's one of the big unwritten rules we have in our system. Oh, actually, we have it written down somewhere. It's one of the mottos we carry is the chain or the web, our system, is only as strong as every link in that chain. Or no, wait, I think I messed it up. The whole net that represents our system is only as strong as the weakest or most sensitive link in that net. So if one is struggling, we all got a problem. So that's how we try to see it. And but then again, when we look at us as a whole, it feels like we don't really differ that much from a singular person, for example. Like, everybody has good or bad days. Everybody has some part in their life that goes well and other part that goes not so well. So sometimes we gain this perspective, a broader perspective on our collective self, and everything seems fine. Everything seems so normal, quote unquote normal. But then when we look at ourselves individually, nothing is fine. At least not for me. And it's just a hell of confusion all the fucking time. And yeah, I have no answer for the question. And I don't even know how to get better, or what would that look like if I was not sick or not struggling with it. Can I even get better? Can I actually feel better about this? Can I ever be not confused? I don't know. Another question that arises often, maybe not for all of us, but for some of us, is, have I wasted my life? Yeah, and I think Matt was referring to me. This question often applies to me, especially Will talking the whole time I was talking. If we made that clear in the beginning, but maybe some at some point we lost it. Is that, yeah, basically all these years and decades before discovering our sisterhood, what was I basically doing? I don't know. It feels like, often for me personally, it feels like I was just a co-driver in our life. I personally feel like that I'm very quote-unquote dominant, in the sense that I'm often close to the front, at least close to front or fronting. And when I look back at memories, I feel like I've been around a lot, but mostly just quietly watching, while my other handmaids were more active and had more influence on our daily life. I certainly had influence on certain big life choices, but when it comes to daily life, it feels like I'm just there. And even today it sometimes feels like that. And it feels a lot like I haven't really existed before. Like, only after syscovery I felt like I finally have the possibility to think about myself as an individual, and kind of reclaiming the agency of being myself and living my life in a way that is appropriate for me as an individual, which is not easy when you are not alone in your body. So yeah, this question often comes, like, thinking back. I try not to think back, but I catch myself doing that from time to time, and it causes a lot of depersonalization and dissociation, which I'm still planning on talking about that in more detail in another episode. It's coming. But yeah, I try not to think too much about the past, because it makes me feel very uncomfortable. And what I do about it, we do about it, is trying to find my individual self. and Matt always likes to say we're making new memories, and in 10 years we look back at our new memories that we're making now. So we will have memories to look back to be happy about. I don't know, something like that. It sounds like it makes sense, but at the moment it's hard to feel it, hard to believe in it. But yeah, gosh, this episode feels so depressing somehow. I'm sorry for that, but I mean, we talk about the ugly parts of plurality, right? And yeah, it can be extremely ugly. And now onto the final question that probably a lot of you might ask yourselves, especially when you just discovered that you're a system and you are just all over the place. The question is, how are we supposed to live like this? How the fuck are we supposed to go on as a system and live our life collectively? Yeah, that is something that specifically I was trying to deal with in the beginning. I don't know, I used to see myself as some sort of the manager in this system, and I still sometimes act like that, but I'm not really, I don't want to feel bound to that role or anything. It's just some character quirk about me that I like to organize stuff, so I liked to organize our system. I wanted to have fair and square fronting times for everyone. Everybody should have the same amount of time fronting and doing their thing and living their life, which, yeah, turned out to be not really feasible for us, at least. And not everybody in our system actually wanted that. Some people in our system only want to come out in specific situations, or they want to do things that are just not possible for us at the moment. So after a while, it just I just dropped that idea, and we were just more going with the flow. Like whoever's fronts, and we set up a few guidelines for our collective direction, something like that. But yeah, it was very overwhelming in the beginning. There was a lot to uncover, a lot to manage. And if you're going through that right now, well, yeah, give yourself some credit. This is not easy. You probably also have some outside life stuff going on that you need to take care of. In our situation, we were actually very busy at our workplace. We actually didn't have the time and energy to deal with systemhood. In the end, we tried to prioritize our system over work, which only worked out to some degree. And yeah, looking back at it, it's actually no wonder that we feel burnout. It's like it's so much emotional labor, so much to deal with at the same time. Even though you have your headmates you can split up the work, you're still one human being with finite resources, right? And then also lack of support from the outside, lack of understanding for your situation. It all comes together, it all sums up. And if you feel burnout because you just discovered your system, yeah, welcome. welcome to the club, I guess. Take care of yourselves, take breaks wherever you can, even if it's not easy. It's a lot of trial and error. And whatever works for other systems might not work for yourselves, but you gotta try things. Matt has this 3 years plan that we try to hold on to. Is the first year is just trial and error. Just experiment. Just try things. Try grounding techniques. Learn how to communicate. Learn initiating switches at will. Something like that. Try things out that work for you. Try self-care methods for individual handmaids, all that shit. Try, and you will fail. Things will not work out as you hope or expect, and that's okay. It should be okay. I know it's not easy to accept when you just hit with disappointment, but in general, it's okay to fail. And then, according to Matt, the second year is about actually learning things. So we are in the second year right now, and we try to actually learn how to do stuff, how to live our plural life. And since we are still in the learning process, I don't know if we have good advice yet. But yeah, it's a lot of practice. It's more committed than the trial and error period, basically. It's like we tried a few things, we figured out some of them might work, so let's stick to that a bit more, see what comes out of it. And then the third year, only in the third year, you apply everything you tried and learned previously. You apply that more consciously, and only after applying all that in the third year, you can actually judge how well does this work? What do I think about it? What is my opinion about all of that? Because while you're trying, while you're failing, while you're learning, this all sucks. I would say the first 2 years are supposed to suck, I guess. That's what Matt keeps telling me. And if you then judge it, you will think negatively about everything. At least I do. So Matt always keeps reminding me, only during the third year I can actually make a valid assessment about whether I like it or not. So we will see. And I guess we will keep you all updated how we feel about the third year of systemhood. Stay tuned. And this is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We put together a few questions that we came across personally during our first time as a system, or being aware as that we are plural system, and we try to answer them the best we can. Hopefully you learned something from it, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe we learned something. And maybe you're wondering, maybe you're missing something here in this episode. Maybe there are things, questions, struggles that are on your mind that we haven't talked about here yet. And I bet we had a lot more questions on our mind. We still have a lot more questions on our mind and struggles. So yeah, please please share your questions with us. If you're newly discovered system, or if you have known it for a while, are there still things that you keep wondering and have no answers for? Or maybe you had some struggles that we haven't listed here yet, and you found some solutions, or maybe you have solutions to our questions as well. Please share everything you want to share with us and the others. Share them in the comments, please, or contact us. This episode was brought to you by the Voices of Jarvis, with me, Matt, as your host, and with Will today. Thank you all, beautiful souls, for listening, and thank you for all your feedback and your support. We really appreciate it. It really, really helps us to stay motivated with this project and get going. We're really happy to see that you're enjoying this podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode or this podcast and think it brought a little bit of value to life, please share it, like it, comment, so that other people can find this episode as well. Many thanks. And as I always like to say, let your personality shine brighter than your eyes and your confidence shout louder than your voice. Until next time with Housemates for Life. And at the end, as always, have some outtakes for your chuckle muscle. Okay, let's see how this goes. It's been a while. Hello. The chain or the web, our system, is only as strong as every link in that chain, or no wait, I think I messed it up. The whole net, aka our system, is only as strong as every link. No, I said it again. There's a kitty in the background playing with a toy, making noise. What should I do about it? Nothing.